Hi, my name is Jonah Friedman, and I am here representing Ferris Incorporated from Industry F53371. Thank you for taking the time to view our presentation. Before we begin, we would like to introduce you to the key members of our management team. Throughout the 8 rounds of the simulation, we manufactured 3 products: Fast, FCS, and Faster. We've highlighted several categories and where we placed in them relative to our industry. We are obviously concerned with our overall 5th place finish in the industry. We didn't knock it out of the park in terms of financial success, and we will go into detail about why that is, but despite that, came out with valuable insights about the importance of developing and implementing strategies, among other things. Our team recommends that for the near future, your team follows this immediate strategy. The basic outline of the plan is to use the differentiator strategy with a focus on product lifecycle. Once high-tech products are developed and put into the marketplace, over time the products should be allowed to drift towards low-tech, while brand new products are introduced into the high-tech sector. Your team should then use available cash flows to invest in various HR and TQM initiatives, while keeping an eye on the company's debt level and starting to pay it off. Once these initiatives are taken, factors such as net income and brand image should all increase, which would in turn raise the stock price. By issuing stock at this higher price, the company can raise the capital needed to continue growing the company while paying off all its outstanding debts. Throughout the presentation, we will further explain how to interpret the plan.
I will be presenting you with an overview and an analysis of our initial strategy and explain the revisions we made to our strategy in later rounds. I will present our initial strategy broken up into major components of our business. I hope I can provide the new management team with the reasons why we employed some of these aspects, how our management decisions align with them, and the reasons to why we made the revisions to our strategy. Our initial strategy with regards to R&D was to have products of excellent design and high quality, which drifts from high-tech to low-tech. At first, we only wanted to focus on having a couple of good quality products in the market. However, we adjusted our strategy to include multiple product lines as to be able to fit the needs of every type of customer. We initially thought that investing in HR would prove too costly to the short run, but later we adjusted this strategy once we realized that labor costs were too high. Unfortunately, we still ended up not placing enough emphasis on investing in this due to still being worried about short-run costs. In the production area, investing in automation seemed too costly for us, and this, coupled with the fact that it increases R&D cycles, deferred us from investing in this. Later, we changed the strategy to include investments in automation due to its labor cost decreasing benefits. We realized that this is too late in the game. However, we didn't have enough capital to follow through with this strategy due to emergency loans. At first, we had prices above average, but as we strive to increase the quality and customer perception of our products through positioning and product qualities, we increased prices to give our products premium status. Our major adjustment to our strategy was to start investing in TQM to save costs in the long run, instead of worrying too much about the short-term cost. However, we realized this is too late and ended up struggling to acquire the capital to invest in this as we suffered losses in emergency loans. Prior to the analysis of these areas, we conclude to the financial area of the business. Throughout our business, we didn't include using equity financing, but as our indebtedness increased, we revised this decision. At that point, we realized our stock prices had gotten so low that it would be ineffective to issue stock, and as such, we kept hoping the stock price would eventually increase. The result of our financial position will be discussed in more detail later on in the video. In summary, most of our initial strategies were very focused on the short term and our adjustments reflected a change in attitude towards focusing on the long term. Unfortunately, we didn't have the required capital that late in the game to successfully execute the adjustments to our strategy. Mitch will now present you with the results and impacts of both the initial strategy, revisions to the strategy, and its effects on Ferris Incorporated.
The 5 main points I will be looking into are our short-term mindset, our debt obligation, our market share, our deceiving asset turnover ratio, and our poor cost control. These results will help me tell you what worked and what didn't work with our strategies. These results also allow me to make appropriate recommendations for you as incoming management. The primary issue when examining our initial strategy is that we focused too much on short-term issues, therefore leaving us vulnerable and eventually saw our opponents pull away from us in terms of sales and profits. Subsequently, we didn't focus enough on long-term investments like TQM and HR, and we rather spent the money on unnecessary purchases early in the simulation. Another result that was also troubling was the amount of unwanted debt put upon us due to emergency loans. 3 weeks in a row we were given emergency loans. It also happened to be at the same time we were trying to implement our revised strategy and consequently restricted us from committing our funds fully on implementing this strategy because of the debt obligation that had to take priority. We ended the simulation with 12.8% of the market share, which was 5th best in the industry, and also 1.2% lower than we were using our initial strategy opposed to the revised. This small piece of the market made it difficult to obtain the kind of profits that we were hoping for. We shifted our strategy to long-term performance in hopes of gaining more market share down the road. It clearly did not work as we expected, mostly due to the debt obligations we had to pay. One of the positive results when examining our financials was our asset turnover ratio, which was top in the industry. Although this is very misleading because of our lack of assets. We ended up with $37,094 worth of assets, which on average was much lower than the rest of the industry. In hindsight, we should have invested more in assets and taken advantage of this strong ratio. The most overlooked result that was not dealt with properly was our high costs and poor cost control. We focused too much on increasing revenues and not enough on lowering costs, which will be explained later in more depth. Altogether, the results of our company do not reflect what we were hoping for as a management team, but they allow us to make the most in-depth analysis to help you, the incoming management, succeed.
There are 3 major lessons that we can take away from this operating period that we would find beneficial to your future success. The first is the importance of executing tactics that align with our overall business strategy. Our team lost focus of our drifting strategy as we kept on repositioning our products. This increased repositioning caused Ferris to incur lots of research and development costs. Since we did not let our high-tech products drift into the low-tech segment, as they grew more outdated, high-tech customers did not want to purchase them anymore, as they wanted newer products, as opposed to customers in the low-tech segment. Thus, we ended up losing market share in both the high-tech and low-tech segment. From this example, you can see that it is clear that before executing tactics, you should always consider whether it aligns with your business strategy. Another important element that we got out of this operating period was learning to balance short-term profit with long-term profitability. In the initial rounds, our team focused too much on elements that would get Ferris short-term profit, such as spending on our promotion and sales budgets. However, we failed to invest in TQM and HR initiatives early on. Because of this, we could not reap the cumulative benefits such as labor and material cost reductions, demand increases, and a lower employee turnover rate. This hindered our performance, especially since our competitors, such as Digby and Erie, invested in these initiatives early on. For example, their variable costs were noticeably smaller than ours. So while we were using our capital to finance these high costs, they were using their savings to grow their company and improve their products. In addition, we did not invest in capacity initially, despite our good cash position. Thus, as the rounds progressed, we realized that we did not have enough capacity to fulfill demand. So it is crucial to remember to balance the need for short-term profit with long-term profitability. Finally, we learned that it is also very important to take the time to produce accurate forecasts. Ferris had an excess of inventory in the early rounds and went out of stock for some of the products in the later rounds. When calculating demand forecasts for our products, we should have taken into account qualitative assessments. For instance, when forecasting, we should have examined the customer survey scores and compared it to the scores of our competitors. As a result of this inaccurate forecasting, we overproduced our products in the early rounds and had to pay a 12% inventory carrying cost. When we underproduced some of our products in the later rounds, our actual market share was well below our potential market share. Running out of stock allowed us to direct our customers to our competitors' products. So we can garner that it is very important to take the time to produce accurate forecasts, and when doing so, we should consider both qualitative and quantitative assessments. Now, from these 3 takeaways, we came up with a few recommendations for you, which Heidi will go over.
Following the analysis of the aforementioned strategy changes, its related results, and our consequential takeaways, we have inferred the following recommendations for the incoming management team. Ferris's core problem was balancing future growth and profitability versus short-term profits. Our management's decisions were severely skewed towards making a short-term profit, which proved to be detrimental to our company's long-term market opportunities. Consequently, our first recommendation to our successors is to ensure that a balance between future growth and profitability and short-term profits is struck. As such, it is recommended that you start investing in total quality management initiatives, as well as sustainability and human resource initiatives. This will reduce your R&D cycles, costs, as well as improve the overall company image. Since this short-term mentality has gotten us stuck in a short-termism loop, in which we have had a very reactive HR strategy, this has led to a lack of talent that inhibited our company's growth. And as such, investments must also be made into HR. Secondly, as an extension of the aforementioned recommendation, it is of the utmost importance to balance the need to control costs versus the need to increase market share. As a management team, we were very focused on increasing market share, which proved to be very detrimental to our bottom line as we had such high costs. Thus, you should employ cost control tactics in order to increase margins and consequently improve our bottom line. In order to catch up with our competitors' superior cost control, it is recommended that you invest in total quality management and HR initiative to decrease costs, as well as increasing operational efficiency. Lastly, after making these 2 changes to the management style, that is, ensuring a balance is struck between the short term and the long term, and also ensuring a balance between cost control and market share growth, it is recommended that the company's debt leverage be lowered by altering the current debt to equity ratio, so that less debt and more equity is used in the financing of the company's asset base. These recommendations have been compiled for you into an immediate strategy. I will now follow with a more in-depth analysis of the short-term strategy that Jonah outlined at the start. Broadly, it is recommended that you adhere to the differentiator with product lifecycle focus strategy and allow high-tech products such as FCS to drift to the low-tech segment. This is due to the fact that even with constant repositioning, customers still prefer brand new products. Focusing on being a high-tech market player, the next step is to invest in TQM initiatives, especially continuous process improvement, just-in-time, and quality initiative training, in order to decrease material and labor costs in the future, as well as investing in training and recruiting to increase productivity and decrease turnover. Although automation leads to longer R&D cycles, these effects will be negated by your previous cumulative investment in concurrent engineering initiatives, which have decreased R&D cycles. The final step is to pay off all the company's old debts that have accumulated and as such increase the company's credit rating. In conclusion, we believe that this immediate strategy will improve the company's current position through the effective utilization of leverage, increased margins through cost control, and a forward-thinking mentality that leads to future growth and profitability.
Even though we were in the bottom of our industry in terms of results, we believe that we now have a strong grasp on where we went wrong and how we could avoid failure in a similar simulation activity. Throughout reflection and analysis of our results, we have a much better idea how to develop our strategy in a way that satisfies the long-term prospects of the company while still being able to produce a short-term profit. On behalf of my associates and me, we wish the best of luck to our successors.